Welcome to Dig on America, where we speak truth to power. Every week, we give you the dig on how American history, policies, and media created the social and political issues we face today. DOA is independent media supported by listeners, but they'll tell you we're just fake news, deep state propaganda, funded by George Soros, the Clinton Foundation, BLM Marxists, and
Bart Simpson.
I was going to say, we haven't really addressed this, but one of our major contributors to the show is Christina Aguilera.
That's right.
Oh. She has been funneling tons of money into this dark, under secret globalist corporation we've been running.
I mean, that's a lot better than Bart Simpson.
Yeah.
Well, Bart's money is not, we don't throw it away. We take it.
It's not spendable.
Yeah, we can't use it for anything. He's a drawing money. He's a drawing.
It's just kind of there. So, but welcome everybody to Dig on America. This is Jason Dutch, broadcasting remote. I am your man in the streets today. From the hotel room. All of the groupies are following me. There's just massive amounts of people outside cheering my name as I visit beautiful Buena Park, California. And I'm here with this guy over here, Michelangelo Famiglie. What's happening, Michelangelo?
Hello. And I'm glad that you are in the middle of your tour of the Campbell's Soup Factory, because that is the can that you are broadcasting from.
Progresso soup.
He loves his audio quality more than anything. This is going to drive him nuts all night, and I'm here for it. I woke up today and I chose violence.
So what he did then is he said, apparently this setup that I brought with me is not giving as good of audio as I asked him that it was before the show, and he told me it was good.
And then you
turned that so that he could then screw me over and have me spend 6 hours editing the show instead. Thank you for taking my time away from my autistic son in order to edit the podcast for your laughs.
Look at him. You tried to play his son into the fact that you changed devices. You ass. You totally changed devices. You had your little ESPN over the ear joint like you were about to call the Super Bowl, and then you come back and you got the Apple joints in. But I'm the one who changed your sound. I don't know,
because the other one wasn't working. I couldn't hear you guys. So, But anyway, it is what it is. Hopefully, I sound okay. But welcome back to the show. The lovely, the inauspicious, the amazing, the what other adjective could I throw at you? The superlative, the boisterous Jenna Mayu.
Hi. so lovely.
The spectacled.
The spectacled. Thank you. No, I appreciate being back. I know it's been a minute.
It's been a while. I think you haven't been since like October or something.
Yeah, it has been a minute. Yeah, no, your girl's been busy.
Yeah, what you been up to? Tell us what you've been up to, and then we'll get to introducing our other esteemed guest.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, besides my full-time job as a nurse, back in school as well, full-time too. And I'm on various channels and do content, and this year is going to be quite interesting. As far as shows and stuff, I still have that show that I go run with my friend Justin on International Free Thinkers. I also co-host and a part of the Tangang, or the Atheist Network group, with Oz. I'm also.
It's a very evangelical show. What I hear.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, very. We are just the best
praise
non-Christian Christians you can ever meet. Also with the Promethean Secular Frontier, running a show with them for women atheists. Also was offered and going to be a speaker for the Black non-believers in November for their CCon. So Mandisa tapped me to be a speaker for them. So that's exciting.
Sweet.
Actively writing a speech now because I'm nervous as hell. So I got a lot going on this year.
You'll do fine.
Yeah.
What's the worst that could happen?
I mean, yeah, career ender. I mean,
I jump off the boat.
You just embarrass yourself in front of everybody that you respect.
Yep.
It couldn't be worse than
millions on the internet.
Thank you, Michael.
It couldn't be worse than having to hang out with me every Wednesday.
That's true.
Yeah, I got it.
I missed you, Dutch.
There's a silver lining to every dark cloud. All right, and also today,
at least you're not on Dig.
At least you're not. And also with us today, we have a very special guest with us who I met on multiple Twitter spaces. He's the world's largest supporter of Bernie Sanders. That is a lie. This guy. So Terry he's super informed. He's super. His ideas are super well thought out. I really enjoy listening to him talk. I don't agree with everything that he says when it comes to some of the differences between progressives and the more, let's call it, centrist Democrats. But I mean, everything that this guy says is, I at least respect it. I've really, really come to enjoy listening to his content on Twitter. So welcome to the show, Terry Lee. How you doing, my man?
Hello, I'm Terry Lee Watkins Jr. I don't think me and Dig have debated, but we've definitely we've shared each other's spaces, and I've been like, let me counter this, let me counter that. For all who know, I lived really internationally for the last 5 or 6 years, and then COVID sort of complicated some measures. But my master's is actually in public administration, as well as a master's from the University of Geneva in innovation in human development and sustainability. So I pride myself on making sure that whenever we talk about issues, we know the policy, we know the numbers, we know the data, and I try to take that forward with how I engage with any new thing that comes up, whether it's historical or present. So thanks again for letting me be on the space, be on the podcast.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for taking some time out. I know it's a little bit later for you, though. You are a fellow St. Louian here with Mikey, so I'm sure you guys will.
Yes.
Talk about Emo's Pizza and
watch your mouth, Dutch. Don't step too far now, man.
Hanging out under the arch.
We can fight about audio technica versus sure any day of the week, but don't you come for my pizza. You leave my pizza alone.
We've had a few St. Louians on here lately.
And they all love it.
Yeah, Jackson White on here. Yeah, you got Terry, and then we had someone else too. I can't remember off the top of my head recently as well.
What's his face was from Western? It was like 2 weeks ago or last week. He was from Western Missouri.
Yeah, Ray's from right outside. We had Ray Reed on, who is a candidate from, was it 5 or 6?
Columbia.
The
I know him.
Yeah, he was on here a couple of weeks ago. So he told me that he had blocked you on Twitter. So
wait, he did?
No.
Oh my god, I am so. Oh my, don't joke with me like that.
No, cool, man. I clipped it up on Twitch already. I'm just gonna send this over to him real quick. Hold on.
I've been waiting to hear you guys get into a space together so you can debate Cory Bush. So
he's not even in he's in the district south of me.
Right.
And it's a purple seat, but we'll see because we haven't finished redistricting. I wish him luck.
He's a super good guy.
Yeah.
And definitely will do a much better job of representing the people of Missouri than the current contestant on the show.
And Wagner. Ooh.
Yes, and Wagner. But or Wagoneer, as we like to call her. So let's address the elephant in the room real quick first. So got to be a fucking war probably. And we're going to talk about our Black History Month topic tonight once Haas comes on. We'll probably jump around a little bit this show. It's probably be formatted a little bit different than normal. There's a couple things to talk about, but I want to start out the show by talking about Ukraine. So if you have anyone in the chat wants to jump in, give any thoughts or anything. That obviously this is an ongoing story. Updates are every few minutes. They're talking about just a few minutes before I logged on. I was looking at a story that Russia's basically announcing that they're going to send troops into eastern Ukraine, which is where they're claiming to help separatists. Of course, Biden did a pretty good job getting in front of that because we already know that the separatists are real, but the bullshit that Putin's saying is happening, we don't really have any evidence of. So what I want to do real quick first is just toss it out to this amazing panel and kind of get your thoughts on what is going on out there. Just in the interest of going with ladies first, Jenna, like, what are your thoughts on what you're seeing in the news these days?
Honestly, it's not too far removed from anyone here or anyone else that has been continuously having the discussion. I haven't really, honestly, this is my first time even being a part of the discussion of this kind of current news that's going on. So unfortunately for me, I've been a little too far removed from actively paying attention to the news as I more or less should be. But if anything, I just feed off of everyone else.
You'd find out about the war when the tank rolled down the street?
Pretty much. Yep. That's where I am, unfortunately.
That's news to me. I was going to an atheist convention today.
Yo, it takes a lot of work to get all this shit organized, motherfucker. I don't come up for air sometimes.
It does. Terry, what are your thoughts?
So I've actually been a little more involved because I work with organization Democrats Abroad China, and we help register voters who live abroad and do stuff like that. So part of our policy is knowing what we can and cannot say in the Chinese government, and these were topics to know, like what how to talk about foreign policy details. Every issue has a history to it, just like Black history. It doesn't just start today. It started yesterday. It started 100 years prior. Mm-hmm. And what we're kind of seeing now is a precipice of a long trend that has been kind of going on between Putin's regime within Russia, as well as the former Soviet bloc states deciding sort of in the 2000s that they didn't necessarily want to have political and economic systems that were tilted towards Russia. And what you see happening in like 2008 and 2014 with Chechnya and Ukraine is a lot of these democratically, the public is like, hey, we want better money, better democratic institutions. Let's start getting closer to the EU. Let's start getting closer to the West. Let's integrate more. And they started ousting people in their government that were more Russian-backed. And Putin didn't like that because for him, it was a threat to his power to sort of have these non-Russian aligned republics on his borders. Because then if they can do it, why can't his people do it? And so what you have is like years of sort of this claiming of land, propaganda, misinformation that's kind of permeated Western republics. And I sort of think that in this latest event, Putin kind of went too far. And I think that he thought that everyone in the West would be very divided and very anti, be like, well, it's your fault and it's your fault and his fault. But what you're kind of seeing is the opposite. Ukrainians are kind of united more than ever of saying, yo, Russia, leave us alone. And the West is kind of saying, yo, NATO, the EU, all of us together, this isn't okay. And we see that with our partners in Japan. We see that our partners in Taiwan, just all the sort of global republics. And we're kind of saying, like, don't do this to the land. Don't do this to people, their sovereign state. Maybe we can negotiate. But it's very clear that that's not the intent. And from my standpoint, I feel that we're going to be kind of shaken a little bit, because I think that post World War II, post Cold War, we thought everything's been solved, everything's been done, we're out of it. But this new generation, just as we're now recovering from COVID, we're going to have to kind of go into the next global affair of there's a despotic leader who wants to consume more territory. And what is the moral and ethical way for us to engage with that? And are we united in that? And, how much bloodshed that it will be? Some people are saying it's going to be quick if we sanction it. I'm a little more realistic in the sense of this could go really either way, depending on how big of a conflict it grows into. So just keep your eyes on it, because, we're not... the era of isolationism for our country is long over. COVID was an example of that. We need to sort of not act as like an empire ourselves, because we have our own imperialist history, but we need to make sure that we form coalition and we kind of address this issue together and unified. That's sort of where I'm coming from.
Well, I appreciate that. Mikey, your thoughts, sir?
I was asking Terry before we went live, where can I move to that's safe?
Well,
because I'm about sick of this war shit, man.
Yeah.
You got Canada off the list.
Is there can I get on a Bezos rocket? Is there a way for me to not be down here with this foolishness just one time?
Where are you now?
I'm in Chicago.
I'll be worrying about stuff happened in Chicago before somebody come over with a tank for me. The lucky part about being in the West is that we have oceans. And as far as foreign affairs go, our biggest enemy is what you saw in Jan 6, right? Our biggest enemy is us. Right. So
unless you ask the Republicans, then it's the invasion, the caravan coming in.
My goodness.
That caravan.
We're being invaded because no one invades us.
They have a caravan every 2 years, though.
Every 2 to 3 years, yeah.
Caravan,
right during the midterms.
Every time during midterms. And I'm but actually this might, people need to talk about this, because this is probably going to factor into midterms, because how we deal foreign policy wise is probably going to be, a lot of Americans going to be like, are you going to start putting us over there? Are you going to start, invading? We just got out of Afghanistan. We don't want to do that anymore. So we're people a little tense. Right. But there's a moral way to go about it. It may not be the way that everyone wants to do, but let's do it. Not just our country, but other countries. We can work together on this. That's I kind of want to go from there, but we're safe. Unless I pray, knock on wood, I don't think it'll evolve into a nuclear thing, but I think we'll be fine.
So you're thinking Mars? Okay.
Oh, yeah, Mars. No, actually.
Yes, Mikey, go to Mars.
The moon is too close.
The rover brought bacteria, so Mars is unlivable. COVID is on Mars. The rover had COVID. They didn't know.
I would rather have COVID on Mars than deal with war in this country or on this planet anymore. It's just so. I hate it. Anyway,
what I find most interesting about this is the different narratives that are going around. Obviously, the right wing is going to find a way, as we knew they would, to basically side with Russia in this. Trump came out today and said that Putin is a fucking genius, and I really think he's a genius. Trump supports his buddy Putin. I know him well. Remember, he and I peed on some prostitutes together, and we know that he's a genius, and I'm very impressed with his plan. And it's I've never seen before a situation in this country where you had you might see criticism, but you always saw support from former leaders of the country, right? And it's not like I expected Trump to do the America support thing, because we knew that he wasn't going to do that. We're under no illusion that was going to happen, but it still disappoints me, because it's not like it's just one asshole out there yelling and like Alex Jones into the dark, and he's got like, you know, a couple 100,000 followers across the country, and it's really not that big of a deal. This guy's got 28 to 30% of the country that believes every single thing that he says.
Yeah, the influence still carries, even with him not doing shit right now.
Right, and if he was in charge, I would be fucking terrified.
I mean, it would be so
Terry,
much worse, right? Like, it would just be, we would be insulting like Germany and England, and like it would just be totally worse.
Yeah, and I mean it's but let's call a spade a spade. First of all, why does Trump like Putin? Because Trump likes Putin, right? Like he's a strong man, and Trump likes strong men because he considers himself to be a strong man. And this isn't about Trump. I'm not gonna. He wants to be a strong man, right? He considers himself one. You know, and this isn't about Trump. We're not going to make the show about Trump. We got 4 years of podcasting about Trump. You can go back and listen to it. But Putin is literally running his own "Make America Great Again" campaign, except it's "Make Russia Great Again." He wants to turn back the clock to the 60s, 70s, and 80s when Russia was a world power, because he's the type of guy, much like Trump, who believes in his heart of hearts that the elites should rule the world. And what we're going to talk about W.B. Du Bois later, and you know, there's some similarities there, though Du Bois nowhere near as sinister. But he has this mentality that, you know, 3 or 4 most powerful countries in the world should lead it, and he views Russia as one of those countries. But he looks at China and he's like, China's got all this buffer around them, at least on one half of the country. The U.S. has a massive buffer around it with oceans on every side except for Canada and Mexico, and he doesn't, right? Like, he's right in the middle of everything. And so what they used to have with these Soviet bloc states is they basically built their own ocean of land that they controlled, which would be invaded first. Now, obviously, in this particular world that we live in, land isn't as much protection as you might think, because, you know, we have airplanes that move pretty fucking quick these days. We have drones. We have, you know, you have missiles and stuff. But he wants to build this basic wall of security around him, and he feels like Russia was greater back then, and he wants to turn back the clock to those days. I mean, I don't think that there's any doubt about that whatsoever. But he's put himself, like Terry said, in a position where he's now in a sort of a catch-22. And I'm critical of Biden a lot, but I think Biden's handled this perfectly so far. I mean, I'm sure that somebody could criticize a couple things, but, you know, he's pretty much called the game before he's been predicting the plays as the defensive coordinator, basically, and saying, okay, they're going to run a jet sweep here. You know, they're going to do an option play here. Right, Terry?
Yeah. Well, who else here? And I know that there's an impetus to criticize where there should be praise, but like, who else but Biden? Biden has, I think people forget, Biden, both in the Senate and both as vice president before he became president, has an extensive history dealing with Russian aggression, with Russian foreign policy. Whether, no matter what side of the political spectrum you come on, he has had contact and comprehends how things went wrong in the past and how things went right. I don't know of anybody more prepared in a political, governmental sense than Joe Biden at this moment for dealing with this modern crisis. That isn't to say he's not going to make a mistake or a judgment that we can talk about, but it's to say like who else but him to make this. We had very strong sanctions that came out immediately. He's been sort of warning the U.S. and us domestically for like months now. Russia's about to do something. Russia's about to do something. Russia's about to do something, and Russia does something. And then, even better, something that I want to say he did better than Obama. And this is thing with intelligence, is that when normally what will happen in social media spaces is Russia claims that the separatist or you already talked about this, Jason, but the separatist or someone has attacked Russians first, or that they're the Ukrainians are Nazis, even though they have a Jewish president whose family died in the Holocaust.
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff, and
they are right wing, though. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, they're
right wing.
Only about 5% of their parliament is actually represented by the extreme by the extreme right wing. When they spread the Nazi propaganda about their far right wing, what they're talking about is a unit called I think it's the Antivov Battalion. And
yeah,
that
it's like
unit
ASOV or something.
Something my Ukrainian and Russian is very poor, but they exist in the military.
Right.
And what the propaganda is, oh, you have a unit in the military that does this. And what it's not commenting on is that that unit exists because of Russian aggression and this hyper appeal to nationalism. But there's a strong Jewish Ukrainian foundation in the state. There are maybe some uber right-wing views, as there is in all of Eastern Europe, but to say that like the country is ran and operated by the far right, that doesn't reflect their actual parliament. It's fictitious.
Yeah, I don't think it's far right. I just think it's right wing. You know, if you look at it.
Yeah.
But I do agree that they do have far right elements. And the funny thing is most of the people in that militant group are not even Ukrainian.
Yeah.
You know, they come from other places in Europe, and I've heard even from the US to basically get a foothold with this Nazi ideology because obviously they want to take over. And these are, you know, some of these folks, from what I have seen, I can't say this definitively because I'm not there, but from what I've seen, a lot of these separatist groups are infiltrated with these folks as well. So, but you have a lot of folks on the progressive side who do I consider kind of our team, who have had to check on this because they're like, well, I don't want to send any aid to Ukraine because they're basically a right-wing Nazi militia. And I'm like, that is a super unfair characterization. You know, you're talking about, there is a group within there, though what I have seen, and I could be wrong on this, so let me preface this statement, but I have not particularly seen evidence myself in my research of this that they're actually affiliated with the military, more militia groups that are fighting alongside the military. So
you pointed out, you great excellent points, because a lot of times in the US we talk about like how the Republicans are talking about praising Putin and stuff like that, but this is also infiltrated far left sides, right? Not far left, but like whatever left you define as, where people are like, well, it's really the West that's the aggressors, and it's really NATO that's the aggressors, and Russia has every right to do some of this stuff like this, and you know, Ukraine's actually all the Nazi government stuff like this. This is fundamental propaganda that didn't start with Ukraine. Russia has done this with other Baltic states before. What they do is they did this with Chechnya, they did this with Georgia, where they accuse them of having far right nationalists, and every country does, including ours. We just saw it on January 6th, and we have it in every form of our government. They're hyper focusing, and they're trying to make it as like, oh, we see this, so this justifies us coming over and invading and taking over their land. You get what I'm saying? So like that to me is the issue here, is that we're busy talking about that one little Nazi that snuck over the border and is in the military. And what we're not talking about is an actual war, a government coming over and taking off pieces of your land. Like that is the real key, you know?
Yeah. Though if they want to attack Georgia right now, I wouldn't mind, because they're doing some pretty shit with election laws. Different Georgia, but still might take their attention away from trying to suppress votes. But that again, you make a very good point. I just think that it shouldn't be lost on people that this is one of the rare instances where we really haven't done shit wrong. We're not fighting proxy wars there. We haven't set up any governments over there. We haven't really supported Ukraine. In fact, the last bailout that they got was from, we did definitely send them money because if you remember the whole Ukraine situation with Trump, obviously we have supported that government for sure. But but it was more or less in the form of aid. They've, had big bailouts come from Russia in the past. I think they had a Russian bailout of $15-20 billion or something like that. Just as recently as 2015, which came directly from Russia, and we had nothing to do with it. This is sort of like where Russia plays the U.S. role, where we play the role most of the time in the Latin American countries and, in Asia and stuff like that, and in the Middle East, where Russia doesn't really play as much, at least recently. So we don't really have too much to worry about with this one. As far as blame, though, I will say that, obviously a lot of people are bringing up that, I believe it was, who was Bush's Secretary of State again? Is it Baker?
Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield, who was living at the Cleveland Browns Stadium and went across to to Russia and said, hey, you know what? If Ukraine's going to give up their nukes, we're going to get out of East Germany. Or you guys will get out of East Germany. You guys being Russia will get out of East Germany and let us basically unify Germany, and we won't move NATO east. But they did move NATO east like the next day, this was back in like 93, 94, whatever the case may be. And so they kind of did break that promise. We kind of did disrespect, celebrate victory in the Cold War when, it was more or less, we didn't really win it. Russia lost it on their own. But so were we perfect? No, of course not. But that has absolutely nothing to do with what's going on today. This is a power play to make Russia great again. And, Putin is really in a position right now, I think, where he can either tuck tail and go home and say, I got the world's attention, or he's going to basically start something pretty shitty going on there. And I think my last point on this will be that I think this is a European problem. I hope that we stay out of it. Other than support, we definitely need to support our allies. We definitely need to be there for our allies, but I just don't think we should be taking the front lines on this, at least until it becomes overwhelmingly necessary to do so, because I'd like to see, NATO handle this, as well as Germany, Romania, Poland, the nations that are there that are directly impacted by it. We can absolutely support them and as much as we can and be there for our allies. But what I don't want to see is a 60%, 70% U.S. coalition leading this again, like we did with Iraq and Afghanistan. So that's my 2 cents on that. I don't know if anybody has anything else to throw in.
I think what I would say, I understand that sentiment, but I feel like if history serves me well, we've always had that view. Oh, we'll wait until, the fire gets too hot and then we'll jump in.
And then all these people die. And then, and my thing is, I get that, like, I'm 100% with Jenna. Like, World War I, what do? We stayed out, we made money, and then Germany sunk a boat, and we were like, let's go over. World War II, we let them invade, we let Russia carve out Poland, we let Russia and Germany do their thing, and then what happened? Japanese bombed us. All right, now we got to get into another war. All of American, I know that American history kind of teaches us that we're the victors in those senses, but the reality is, we came in like 3-4 years late on both of those major things, and we let tons of people suffer when we could. And I mean, but to their credit, it was a different time, imperialism, all that sort of stuff. I don't want to go into the specifics, but I don't think that in today's, like I said, COVID-19 has proven that we're a global world. We're connected. If it happens in Ukraine, it's going to impact us somehow over here. Maybe that's going to be in oil prices. Maybe that's going to be in refugees. Maybe it's going to be something. And I think that it is better policy to proactively recognize that we are citizens of the world, just like with climate change, just like with the environment, that we have a responsibility to use the resources available to not be peacemakers and not be cops of the world, but at least do the right thing. Because I don't want in
Yes.
50 years, like people say, well, you just stayed out America. Like, I don't want that.
No, because, you know, also thinking of it this way, you know, depending on who is the leader of our country, whoever has the most influence, like, okay, we have a Democrat, right? Obviously, the right would be totally, you know, yelling against Biden for wanting to go and send our people over there to do what they have to do, versus if we had Trump and he, you know, beautifully, you know, spelled out in a way that influenced others to be a part of sending more over, then all of them would fucking agree.
I mean, and let's be careful, because I don't, if we say like, oh, we're sending our people over there, let's not use that language yet.
Fair.
The current consensus within all of us is basically to target the Russian oligarchy system that gives Putin power and Putin himself. We are not, I repeat, at this moment, we are not sending over American troops into Ukraine to fight Russian soldiers. We're not doing that. We are saying this bank, that bank, your asset here, your business here, gone, cut, or frozen. That's what we're doing. So I don't want people are trying to say like, oh, well, Biden's trying to tit for tat. It's like, it's not that yet. We're not there.
Terry Lee is an official of the government. You must believe him.
I try. If I run,
a member of the deep state. I think, and welcome in, Big Haas. We'll get your thoughts here on Ukraine before we go to the dig. But I think it's a catch-22, and the catch-22 is that, again, if it becomes necessary, then we do it. What is necessary, we'll know when we see it. What I don't want to have happen is us be there for 10 years or 5 years or 15 years or something, or whatever the case may be, is, and basically taking, you know, having our guys and gals over there when it's not necessary to do so.
I mean, if we're nation building, then sure.
But
that's
we're not.
That's our history.
Not, thankfully, Ukraine is in Afghanistan. Like, Ukraine has a government. They are bettering their government in some ways. The issue isn't nation building. The issue is these people have an aggressor to their east that doesn't want them to be a nation. Ukrainians are already nation building. They own their own stuff. So that's, and I get that. And I get that point. And we still got troops and bases in Germany too. So it's not like we really never left.
The Germans did a really good move too with the natural gas sanctions the other day, because that's going to cripple them right from the start, and we might not need to do anything. So, but we'll see. I mean, again, Putin is like dealing with Trump. You know, so you kind of got to use the Trump playbook. What would Trump do? Okay, Putin might do this, and we have a really good idea of what Trump might do, right? So Putin probably is going to be. He's not a little bit smarter than Trump. He's a lot fucking smarter than Trump. They're both crafty. Like, I think Trump is probably craftier than Putin, but Putin is more like he's a fucking chess player, and like he's been doing this successfully for a couple of decades now.
Since Y2K,
and it's surprising that he put himself in this position, frankly. Big Haas, your thoughts on Ukraine before we get to today's dig, sir? Like, what do you think? Should we be there? Should we be leading the fight? Should we be hanging back? What does General Haas say?
I am woefully uneducated on what's happened with Ukraine today. I know that Russia invaded, but that's about it. So it would be irresponsible of me to try to offer an opinion right now because I've been busy all day. So, sorry.
Look at that, an honest guy. Are you running for office?
I got too many skeletons.
Yeah, you and me both.
Yeah,
I thought for a minute.
We black guys, we can't have skeletons when we're running for public office, man.
Yeah, you're white, Dutch. You're fine.
Unless you're Republican. Tim Scott and Herschel Walker got skeletons.
If I were a Republican, none of my past would matter. Because I'm a Democrat, my past matters. I think there's no doubt about that. You know, the only way, like, I've even thought about, you know, in the last week, filing to run for office. It's just kind of too late to me. There's already two other candidates running, and when Bruno Amato dropped out, it left a big vacuum, and I'm like, I don't really care for these other two candidates all that much. They're not going to beat McCarthy. maybe I wouldn't either, but at least he's not going to. The one good thing you can say about McCarthy is he will debate you. Like he always debates.
He will. Yeah.
And
but you
that debate will not be on his highlight reel. I can assure you of that, because I already know what the guy's going to say. But nobody ever really attacks him. They play nice when they debate McCarthy, and I wouldn't fucking play nice. And that's why I liked Bruno, because Bruno wasn't going to play nice with him either. So, but like I thought, I'm like, I have arrests in my past. I mean, it's for bullshit, but like, it's am I going to drag my family through the fucking mud? You know what I mean? For shit that I did in selling a bag of weed in 1994. I don't know if that's worth it, but maybe next time. But anyway, Terry, any final thought or Mikey or Jenna?
Final thoughts. It's good that people are cognizant that if they don't know it, just listen. Keep your eyes open. This is changing just as we speak. I'm getting updates by the minute. But always think ahead. In 40 years' time, what do you want our country to be responsible for in this conflict? What actions do you wish for us to take? I think that there are horrific things that our country has done, but there are also great, noble things that we've been able to accomplish. And I hope that we're thinking currently now on how to move forward without necessarily just saying it's just all about me, because we don't live in that anymore, and we shouldn't.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Mikey, anyone in the chat have anything interesting to add?
I got a couple of starred comments here. One from some gentleman named Tons of Mice. And this is talking about Biden and his Russia relations.
Mr. Genemayu, better known as.
Okay, boys, I want you to keep your eyes on that old Russian corn pop. He was one bad dude. And
Russian corn pop.
and Oz, what up? What up, Oz? Oz in chat says, I'm playing devil's advocate. In involving ourselves, there we go. Doesn't it logically take more lives? Not Oz.
I mean, depending on the context, but I'll let Terry grab that one.
No. You can grab it. It's fine. I mean, depends on the context. My thing is, the only option I see forward as far as involving ourselves, the reality is we're already involved. We were already selling weapons to the state of Ukraine for years. We were already cooperating with them through NATO and through other organizations. And again, to anybody who's listening, I am not advocating for any boots on the ground or sending U.S. soldiers to conflict with Russia or sending bombers or anything like that. We were not there. I hope we don't get there. I'm just saying we can't afford to make the same mistakes in the past, right? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, I've seen some of these. I think they're called Javelin systems that we sent over there.
Yeah.
Those things are just like, I had, I forget who it was on Twitter was telling me about like, you can't get a tank through there. And with those Javelin systems, it's just like, it's not happening. It's hot knife through butter time.
And that's our best gift, I feel like, is making sure that you can protect themselves,
Absolutely. All right. So we'll probably move on to the dig here in a second, though. Big Haas, you put out a little Facebook post today, or was it today or yesterday? Well, you put out about 35 Facebook posts a day. Do you need me to go pull it up for you and remind you? Let me just ask you this.
If he makes 35 a day, if he's supposed 35 a day, how are you supposed to know which one you talk about?
Well, he had posted something. That's the whole thing, Haas. I've been talking about Ukraine, and I don't remember exactly what your post was about. Jesus. But I was hoping that you, being the smart, astute fellow that you are, would
you know what I've been doing?
Say, oh yeah.
You know what I've been doing today?
What's up, man?
I saw like 100 clients today.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, excuse me if I don't remember the Facebook post you're vaguely alluding to.
Yeah, well, I am vaguely alluding to
you know
it
that guy from that one movie, you know the one.
Him.
Yeah.
He was in the other thing with Homegirl.
He does that thing all the time.
Oh,
No,
shit,
I'm gonna
I
tell
remember
you.
that day.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you what it was right now, because there was something that you posted
Tell
on
me why.
that.
Ain't nothing.
Oh, I know what it was. With Juwan Howard.
Okay. What about it?
So I wanted to get your thoughts on the Juwan Howard suspension, the situation that he went through, where he reached out and touched the assistant coach.
Hey, I want to take time out. It's appropriate that this happened during Black History Month. A black man put the pause on a white dude on the clock and didn't get fired.
What?
It's you know, I can't believe it. Here's the thing.
I'm in shock.
Never ever try to sun a person in front of their team and don't think you're going to get the pause put on you. When you stop a grown-ass man, especially a grown-ass black man from the south side of Chicago, you grab him by the arm, and then you're going to try to talk to him and shout him down. This ain't Obama on the tarmac. This is Juwan Howard from the south side. Obama from Hawaii. Okay? You gotta understand. Jesus. That's the product of freaking CVS High School. Okay, Chicago Vocational School. They don't play that mess. We don't do that. You know, and then other people gonna go about the business of contacting him. Notice they didn't get suspended. They got the little slap on the wrist, $10,000 fine. You know, but if you look at the full video, it was lots of people putting their hands on that man before that came out.
He caught a reflex. That's what that was.
He was just trying to gather him up into the flock of the Lord.
That's all that was.
That's what that was.
If you notice, he had put the anointed oil on his palm when he went upside his forehead, right in the occipital lobe. He was just
wanted
trying
to touch him.
Oh boy!
And bless
lay
him with
hands.
the spirit and the fire of the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
That's what that was.
Let me get my organ out. Hold on.
Papa Lacita the High. I just wanted to witness to
Yeah, you heard him. Poppy seed buns on high.
No, do you think it was appropriate? Do you think that the five, because obviously people are saying 5 games is not enough. I think I thought that's what it was going to be the first time. Yeah.
It's plenty. The rest of the regular season is plenty for this. It's not like he just walked up and mushed the dude in his face. You know, you shouldn't have called that timeout and mushed him right there off top. You know?
No, but then homeboy broke one of the unspoken rules. What you calling timeouts for?
Why
you already winning,
timeouts,
man.
Dude? That's
hold on.
That's also disrespectful.
Big House, can you break down the timeline of events? Maybe some people, Jenna, didn't see what happened.
I didn't see it, but I know the timeline.
You're a hater.
All right, so here's the thing. There's 14 seconds left in the game or something like that. Or they're up by 14 or something, and it's the last like 30 seconds. And this coach is still taking timeouts, and they're up by 14. Why are you taking timeouts, dude? That's just disrespectful. And the thing is that Michigan was favored to win that game, and you know there's probably more backstory and context between these two coaches as to why he was taking timeouts and things like that. In addition, that's just disrespectful.
Because at that point you don't need to be trying to score no more. You've already won the game. You don't need to pause the game, stop everything, come up with another plan. You already won.
Get out of here.
You already won.
And you're on your home court. So just let it go.
So just dribble out the clock. Just dribble out the clock. That's the gentlemanly thing to do. You don't just keep beating on a team after you already got them. Right. There's not enough time for them to come back and win. And just dribble the ball out.
And in the handshake line, Juwan was like, I'm gonna remember that. You know, and then dude's gonna try to grab him up by the arm. First of all, you're not gonna grab me like you Goldie from the Mac. I'm sorry. You're not gonna pimp grab me by my arm, right? And then put your finger in my face and stuff.
No.
Oh, that's gonna get some furniture moving. I'm sorry.
As Mikey says, you're going to find Jesus.
I'm trying to tell you, Toby Wigwe, try Jesus.
Real quick, I want to talk about one other quick thing before we go to the dig, though. But real quick, Ahmaud Arbery's killers charged with the first ever hate crime in Georgia.
Found guilty.
Or found guilty, right? They were found guilty for the first time. There's been other charges, but the first time found guilty. So just around the horn on what this might mean, starting with Terry.
Wait. Let me get a clarifying question. You said that's the first hate crime they've ever had in Georgia?
No. The first guilty verdict in a federal hate crime case in Georgia.
Right.
They had no federal hate crime cases before this?
No, they had cases, I think, but none of them came back guilty.
None got guilty verdicts. There had been a couple of pleas and a bunch of not guilties.
I'm not that surprised.
It's Georgia. Wow. That's the Klan capital.
Exactly.
Come on, man.
Exactly.
Not one.
Not a one.
Y'all couldn't convict one of them.
It's Georgia.
Well, they did today. They got 3 of them today. So now they figure it's even for another 40 years.
That's right. We got our,
you got to fill
like
that
OJ
quota.
getting off. OJ got off, and no other black people got off for 10 years.
No.
Terry, Jenna?
I don't want to necessarily talk about the innocence of OJ.
No, hell no. I said he got off.
He got off. Okay, all right. I don't want to.
Ain't nobody said his ass was fucking innocent.
There
he just was not found guilty.
Believed it for a long time, and then he wrote a book. It said like, I didn't do it, but
if I did,
but
if I was gonna do it,
who puts that down?
That's the hood classic right
but if
there.
I was going,
I didn't do it, but
that's almost like a dude getting accused of cheating. He's like,
I'm almost surprised he hasn't. I can't believe he hasn't run for office yet.
Well, he could. If you wanted to be, he could run as a nice black Republican in the South because a lot of them got the same background. But anyway, no. Go back to your point. So this is actually something that I think that we don't discuss a lot, and people are amazed that this was the first federal hate crime in Georgia. The truth of the matter is, fewer than 1 in 5 suspects of a federal hate crime related case are actually prosecuted, according to the Justice Department. That's prosecuted, not even charged. So wow. And I want people to understand this. When we had Senator Cory Booker and Kamala Harris a couple of years ago do the lynching bill, the reason why they did that is because a lot of our black politicians and non-black politicians too, but I want to give credit to my black folk because it's Black History Month. We know how difficult it is to prove a hate crime violation at the federal level. It is extremely, we have it on the books, it's extremely difficult. It's the same reason why I had to push back a lot of hoteps and a lot of other people in this Twitter space who were angry at the well, whatever you call them. But they were angry. Look, they were angry at the hate crime, the COVID-19 hate crime bill that was passed, because they were like, oh, well, that's only for Asians, that's only for them, and stuff like that. It's like, no, that was called the COVID-19 hate crime bill because it invests money into training departments to comprehend how to solve, like how to say this is a hate crime case versus this is like a not hate crime case. Because what a lot of times happens is people, a white man who's obviously a white supremacist will kill you. And if he doesn't say the N-word or doesn't say specifically, I'm killing you because you're black and I have a vendetta against black people, they will not be charged.
This is my racist act.
It is. And this is a serious, I'm glad Jason brought this up.
This is a non-racist killing.
Exactly.
Oh, fuck. Now I can't get him.
And that's not just for race, that's also for gender. A lot of misogynists and men get off. They may get charged for killing somebody or abuse, but they won't get charged for a hate crime if they have a vendetta against women. It's a serious thing, and I'm glad that our administration is pushing policy for that. But we got a long way to go before we get what we're doing. But that's something. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad Ahmaud Arbery only got justice because the wings of the camera, the wings of the moment. We got justice for George Floyd. I really wouldn't call just accountability. We got accountability for George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and some of these other cases because we had little cameras on our phones, and that's something different than beforehand. And we were able to track it and say, hold these people accountable. Going forward, people need to pay attention. People need to look at these policies on the federal level and say, like, I like my student loan debt, but what are you also doing about making sure these people are held accountable for hate crime? Because it ain't just police officers either. It's just common folks who get away with stuff because they didn't say the N-word when they killed you.
Zimmerman.
You gotta pay attention.
Now, I want to stop short of calling a guilty verdict justice, especially in this case, especially because we don't know what the sentence is going to be, even though federal sentences should be mandatories and things like that. But also, it's not justice to me until all of those people involved in trying to sweep it under the rug are also brought to justice. That DA, the cops, etc., etc. Because when you get to the foundation of it, if that video hadn't gotten out, we would not be sitting here today talking about this because we wouldn't know. It took them 2 months to arrest those people. And for those 2 months, they were getting handshakes and back claps and getting bigged up in the community for defending their neighborhood against the scourge of blackness, I guess.
And you're right. No, think about the hundreds of thousands, well, not hundreds of thousands, but think about the thousands of hate crime cases that go unaccountable systemically, from DA to police to attorney general to governor to mayor. Think about how many of those cases happen, not just to black folk, but to women, to Asians, to Jews, to all these people, LGBT, transgenders, everybody.
Oh, Lordy.
And they don't get charged because these people, want to sweep it under the rug. And this is a bigger issue when I wouldn't call it a bigger issue, but this is something Georgia has a specific tie to. And the way you said that, we can't just focus on the federal level. We got to focus on the local level too, right? That issue wasn't solved thanks to they were federally charged, but they also got state charge hate crime as well, and they got state charge all this. So we gotta pay attention, and we gotta not allocate all of our energy every 4 years. We gotta keep it up, keep it up every year, every 2 years, keep it up, because these legislatures need to change the law so what they did is illegal. I don't know if they're going to be held accountable, though, like you said, because I don't know if what they did was necessarily on the books in the Georgia Constitution as illegal yet, and they may get off. But here's the thing. When you vote on the midterms and the election and all that, now if you're Georgian, I got to get more people in so they can change the laws so that they will be right. It's a glass. I look at glass half full. Now the problem. Let's fix it. Right.
Yeah. Okay, so you actually segued me to the last mini topic, and I promise I'm going to clock this. What is it? 8:42 Pacific time right now. We got 8 minutes tops to talk about this because I don't want to get down the rabbit hole. And I know it's late for Terry. Terry, why the fuck you hate Bernie so much, man? I mean, give us the. I want to hear your case on this distaste for Bernie and this support for Hillary that you.
How you know Bernie Mac? He's dead.
Yeah. What do you have against Bernie Mac?
And
I don't know why people don't
Bernie
like.
Mac.
I am from Vermont. You don't like me. You don't like Vermont. That means you don't like sausages. Terry, why don't you like sausages? Sausages. are good.
Here's my thing. And I know I don't want to ruffle. See, I know you put me on the spot, and now people are going to be going.
We're not going to beat you down, brother. That's not the atmosphere you're in. At least not too much.
Terry, let me tell you something. We may be full of venom and vitriol, but we are also lazy and we get distracted. We will forget all about this by the end of the show, and we will forget to yell at you later. You're safe here.
All right, so let's just do what I do. Like I said, my background is in public administration. I like policy. I like results. When someone gives me a slogan, I go online to read what they introduce in Congress and see if it actually works. Because I don't like slogans. I like actual bills that have actions and change, right? Why am I a little bit why do I have animosity towards him as a political figure? It is based solely in what I've seen from his history, but not just his history, but also now. Because I let politicians evolve and take different stances and grow and be new. But when I look at Bernie Sanders, I see someone who has for a few decades now talk about, he started off as a mayor propagated by NRA funding, which I can forgive because he later turned his back on that. And he lives, how do I say this? I'm trying to find the nicest way to frame it because I don't want to hurt. I don't want to be mean.
Careful.
Yeah. No, like, how do I say it? Okay.
No, say it like you would say it in a Twitter space with all your friends.
Yeah. In a Twitter space, I'd be.
So do that here. It's fine.
Okay.
We were joking.
He's lazy and he's vapid and.
How dare you say that about her? I'm kidding.
But
I'm kidding.
Here's my thing, and I say this as a Black American. I watch how he communicates both in his state and when he goes to the South and when he goes into the churches. He is a class reductionist where things like gender, orientation, immigration, all these identities that have real policy and real impacts on people's lives, he sees them as distractions that can be easily solved through class upward mobility. So fixing, when I hear Bernie Sanders, when I hear his rhetoric, it's like I'm hearing someone who thinks Black issues are solved if they get a little bit more money and they get a little bit more state funding. I'm not hearing the specifics in terms of the policy of like Black maternity mortality rates are very high regardless of how much money you have. Venus and Serena Williams and all these celebrities and all these rich Black women still have 4 times the rate of mortality rates because of how the systemic racial oppression happens within our country. When I'm talking about, he has major gaffes that no one talks about. He blames people
except that everyone's always talking about them.
To you, maybe, but in terms of like how mass media portrays things, I have a different ear. So maybe we can do numbers.
I think that's what this is going to boil down to. Is that I think you're and just to like frame it, like everything you're saying, like I see the way that the media portrays stuff, and it's like to me, and I don't want to speak for Mikey and Jenna and Haas, but that to me, it's like they're so in love with their beloved, Bidens and Hillarys of the world, and like they cover Bernie like nothing. I mean, now they're covering AOC, which is kind of covering Bernie by proxy in a way. But to be fair, the folks in the spaces that I've been in, it's not like they just don't like Bernie. They don't like Cori Bush. They don't like Ilhan Omar.
Yes.
They don't like AOC. They don't like all of the rest of the squad either. So it's like, okay, who else is pushing forward ideas?
When you go into our spaces, I believe we explain clearly what we're looking for. There's a reason why. So when I'm thinking of a young progressive who's actually putting forth policy, I'm thinking of Lauren Underwood, a young Black 36-year-old, lives in Illinois. I'm thinking of Joe Neguse, Black immigrant parents. I'm thinking of people who have been in Congress just as long as some of the squad or other people. Biden as an example, I wouldn't even use him. I'd use someone else who's been there a little bit longer. But just these people who go to work, get their job done, and you don't see them on TV. You don't hear that praise from these people, largely because what gets clicks, what gets views is the populist passion of, I'm going to say what people love to hear that. People love to hear, like, I'm an environmentalist as well. People love to hear the Green New Deal. People love to hear single payer healthcare, Medicare for all. They love these things, but I love actually moving towards progress and getting things down in ink and paper, and we actually get them out. When I look at Bernie Sanders' history as a legislature, I don't see, when I think of like healthcare reforms and expansions, the people who are writing those bills were not Bernie Sanders. When I think of racial equality and police reformation, that was not Bernie Sanders who implemented those policies. When I think of Black maternity health care, it was not Cori Bush. It was not AOC. It was Lauren Underwood. When we talk about housing, the eviction moratorium, for example, I'm represented by Cori Bush. I saw her sit on the Capitol steps. We had already secured in the 1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan more than $21.5 billion in housing assistance for the homeless and for renting insurance. That money was held up in governor seats in states. She waited 2 weeks before the eviction moratorium ended, after it was constitutionally impossible to extend it. And then when Biden, gracious to his heart, tried to extend it and the Supreme Court struck it down 29 days later, she had to do essentially what we told her to do: go back to the state of Missouri and try to keep people off the streets by getting the renting insurance that we already fast for. So where does my animosity for these people come? It comes from the fact that I see doers and workers within our political system who are attacked as vapid and centrist and whatever label you have, even though they're the ones who are actually writing the bills and doing the ink. And maybe some people need that activist, that person who talks and makes them feel better and makes them feel good about wanting to pursue these more left-wing policies. I consider myself a progressive, but I think that other people need to realize that there's talking and then there's legislating and then there's governing. And there are 96 members, 95 minus Senator Bernie, who were in the Progressive Caucus. The Progressive Caucus did not start in 2018. It started in the 90s, in the 80s. So I want to see results. I may sound harsh because I may sound really, really harsh to them. And it may be really, really weird that I'm going against the status quo on, well, aren't they the picturesque progressives? But the reason why I sound so harsh is because I read what gets passed, and I read the name of who passes it. It's not them. And that's where I'm kind of coming from with that. But please, I have to do this conversation all the time. It's okay if people like them. I'm fine with that. But I just, when I'm looking at leaders, they aren't the people I'm looking at.
I have a question.
First of all, you're having it in a, just so you know, you're having it in a safe space. But go ahead. I'll let my teammates chime in.
I got a question. Enough. Is it possible that, and you know, I'm quasi playing devil's advocate here. Is it possible? Just listen. Just listen. Just listen.
I'm listening.
Is it possible that AOC and the squad and those guys put out that stuff that they talk about, that's that pie in the sky stuff, as a buffer to allow those other things that Lauren Underwood and those others are doing to kind of slip in? You know what I mean?
I would rebuttal that because we've been passing this type of legislation before they came, and we'll be passing this legislation long since they're gone.
Well, you know that Bernie Sanders is a goddamn vampire, so I don't know what you mean. He's never going to be out of there.
That's one. That's one.
But that's the thing. That's another thing is that I don't like certain labels. Like when people call things establishment, how you've been in Congress for 30 some odd years. What is the definition of establishment if not somebody who's been in political power for 3 decades? I don't get that. And I don't have an issue with people who've been in their job for a while, because I believe if the people in the district get tired of them, they're going to vote them out. Unfortunately, that happened in my district. We had Lacey Clay. He comes from a 50-year generation with his dad and with him. People got a little tired of him. They didn't see him and they voted him out. That's how our system works. With the Democrats, at least. I don't know about Republicans.
Yeah. Those goddamn voting machines.
Yeah. But you get... this is just a general expression of how I feel. I can go into depth about certain other odd things that I didn't quite like about what he said in this way and that way. But in general, I just appreciate action. If you are quiet and I don't see you, I'm the type of guy who will go onto congress.gov and Ballotopedia and figure out, oh, this no-name senator or representative from the middle of a rural area passed a bunch of HBCU law bills, and I'm going to give him credit for it, right? I'm just not the type who goes along with the campaign rally style, Facebook, Twitter. You know, like you see my Twitter, Jason. Like I like details, and I'm not seeing the way yet. And the thing is, it's cool to not pass anything substantive your first 2 or 4 years in Congress. That's actually pretty common.
Yeah, you got to pay your dues.
Yeah, you pay your dues. You work on a committee, you get tutelage by someone. That's how the process works. I'm fine with that. Not everybody's going to be.
I was just going to mention that. Good, I'm glad you brought it up.
Not everybody's going to be a Lauren Underwood. Not everybody's going to be a Jonah Goose. But don't market yourself as someone who is moving mountains when while simultaneously attacking the people who did move mountains just because they weren't as perfect 20 to 30 years ago when you were still a kid. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just my.
I get that, but I definitely get that. All I'm saying is this. And I'm going to pass over to Mikey and Jenna here, but you got to play the same card for everybody, because just twice in your conversation you brought up what Bernie did years ago. But if I bring up something that Hillary did years ago, everybody goes, oh, well, she's been forgiven of that. She was right about everything. What was she right about? That Trump was going to fucking destroy America? Yeah, my daughters knew that, and they were 10. Okay, so it's like what it's about to me is an idea for improvement of this country. We keep passing milquetoast legislation that doesn't address all of the needs that we have, and playing the game that way in this bipartisan fashion with a bunch of Republicans who are going to pretend to work with you and strip legislation down and then still vote against it is not working for America. And when I go into these rooms and they don't like progressives, brother, the thing that irritates me is they get all upset because they say I sound angry and mad while being angry and mad at me and literally yelling at me. And that is the thing that irritates me, because we get, as you know, folks in that camp get this reputation like Paulo, right? And Paulo, believe me, Paulo was on the show last week. You know who Paulo is. You know,
I heard
Pablo?
he did to
Pablo, but
what's his name?
I heard about that. I didn't see it, but I've already reached out to him to talk about that. But like he's used to being to having conversations with rural white Democrats where they are pretending they don't have bigotries that we know that they actually have. That doesn't mean they're like super racist, but those bigotries come out, and they happen to come out a lot when they're members of the evangelical church. So it's like, was he wrong for that? Again, I didn't hear it, but if it was characterized the way that I heard it was, then yes. But we're also not a monolith. He doesn't speak for me, right? So to yell at me because Paulo said something is fucking stupid, in my opinion. But That being said, I'm going to let Mikey and Jenna speak their piece, and we'll get off of this, and we'll get into the dig and wrap, and then get to the humidor. I don't know if you guys even have anything you want to add about the progressive versus establishment, money out of politics stuff.
I'm just going to say this. There is no greater enemy to any side of any moral argument than the people standing right next to you on that same side of the moral argument. I get that people don't always agree with whoever wins an election, and like AOC and the squad and all them, I get they're not great. They're not super great at their job, but I think they're a better alternative than who they would have lost to in most cases. So as opposed to them losing their seats and then some, because at this point, anybody who runs for office, who the fuck knows what kind of fucking batshit crazy motherfuckers are going to start running for office now. The My Pillow guy is probably going to be trying to move to New York to upturn fucking AOC. Like everything is fucking topsy-turvy land, where things are slowly starting getting back to normal. But at this point, when everything was batshit crazy, yeah, give me AOC. Ilhan, come on, you're up. Bernie, come on. I'd rather have people that are easily guessed. Like I'm not going to get any surprises out of them because I know they're gonna lean and slant towards the corporate Democrat shit, and at least I know what to expect there, as opposed to Lauren Boebert. Like, do we want? Like, I don't need a bunch of them running around if it can at all be helped. But I'm going to Canada anyway. As soon as this shit open up, y'all.
Why?
Okay, Martin Luther King.
I was so happy about Black History today.
I'm going to Canada.
Jenna, you get the last comment, and then we'll close off.
Will you ignorant Nick? Please shut the hell up.
I truly dislike the whole notion that, the whole lesser evil type when you're choosing candidates. It's like, well, Hillary or so couldn't have been any better or blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, clearly Hillary wouldn't have fucked shit up as much as Trump did. And so that applies with every senator that we have, every House of Representative, people that we vote as far as state-wise, voting down the ballot and everything. That's my only approach. As far as with more along the lines with Bernie, I mean, I don't really have an opinion, to be honest. Bernie was never really an option or a choice for me personally amongst everyone else. So I could care less. To me, Bernie is not, even though I guess I have been a Democrat and vote left-leaning and democratically. Yes. I don't know. And I guess my ballot labels me as Democrat, so that's fine too. But, as far as just drawing party lines and things like that, he's not necessarily considered a Democrat. But I mean, I guess all in all, that ultimately does not matter to me. And more matters when it comes to enacting legislation that does not harm people. That's it. That's all that matters.